Everything you need to know about the Skoda Kodiaq, and special version here today, the Skoda Kodiaq Scout. Now, a full review on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars with Thomas. Going to take a detailed look on the exterior, special also with this trim, interior, and of course the driving experience with this SUV that is supposed to be one of the best price performance SUVs on the market. Is it true? Let's find out in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! Starting with the front, the Kodiaq comes with halogen headlights as standard. For 1,000 euros extra, you can get the full LED specs as we have here today. The Scout trim is defined by the stressing of the real off-road character of the car. For example, here with this contrast lower bumper. Of course, it's also mainly a design line, and I think it really fits very well as a contrast to this lava blue color. Or what do you think? 4.70 m or 15'4" is the total length of the Skoda Kodiaq, and well, it's a little bit longer than some of the other compact SUVs on the market, but it will have even more room on the interior. I will soon show you that. With the Scout line, it usually comes with 19-inch rims. Those are not equipped here today because we have the 18-inch rims together with the winter tires, and I think 18-inch is totally okay if you think about the riding comfort or also from the visual aspect. I think this one works really fine still, doesn't look too narrow. With winter tires, of course, it's always a little bit more balloonish. Furthermore, we have those silver caps here on the side mirrors, again a good contrast to the lava blue, a Scout badge, and we have a chrome frame all around the windows. Overall, I think a very elegant approach. Then the more crossover approach is then again defined by the plastic wheel arches, also in the lower part. There's also a Skoda Kodiaq Sport line available. In this case then, the wheel arches would be painted in vehicle color. And we also have the roof rail, also in line with the chrome frame of the windows. In general, of course, the Kodiaq is more about form follows function. You can see it on the exterior, but it doesn't look too box-alike, I think. Well, on the rear, it on the one hand looks like typical for MQB platform cars in the whole Volkswagen group. Special for Skoda is that they use this Bohemian glass craft style from Czech Republic. This one is basically symbolized here in the taillight work. I think beautifully done for sure. The Scout again comes with a silver contrast at the lower button. That also works fine, and well, they make fake exhaust big time, but they are placed that low that you can even hardly see them from a normal perspective. Also, we have again, as in the front, a comp structure here in the middle part. And let's already open the hatch right there. There's an electric one here available, and I can stand on it, under it very well with 1.86 m or 6'1". That's really nicely done. You can also adjust the height where it's being opened. If you just hold the electric button, then for example make it like this, well, then it automatically closes, but then if you hold it, then you hold the button for a few seconds, it makes a beeping sound, then you can adjust that it, for example, only opens like this, so that's possible. Other than that, you should of course not push it manually too often. What about the child safety here? Well, that's well done, and seems to be different to the Tiguan, where it was so sensitive, but here sensitive enough also that no one gets crunched. Engines. With hydraulic struts. Easy to open and easy to be kept open. Well, the Scout here is a little bit limited in the engine pick, but almost all are available. They are all equipped with all-wheel drive here in the Scout version. Otherwise, you can also get just base front-wheel drive engines. 1.4 petrol, 150 horsepower. 2-liter petrol with 180 horsepower, and if you don't go for the Scout version, you can also get a more powerful petrol variant and also a more entry petrol variant. Then 2-liter TDI, different horsepower variants available here with 150 or with 190 horsepower, and that one is the one we're driving today. Now to the interior. The Scout package comes with Alcantara inlets in the inside of the doors. That's nice and soft. Also with this wood design. It's not real wood, it's just a design. So visual part, but I think it looks quite fancy already. Very good is that you can open the rear hatch when you get out of the car directly there. It makes sense for the electric hatch. Then there's a Kodiaq entry badge at the lower part. Then the interior is so spacious, again with wood inlets here in the Scout package already right there. And the seats here with the Alcantara package, also special Scout seats, nicely done. You see they have also more shoulder support. They are basically sport seats. A lot of room, you can already see that just. In the basic Kodiaq you can also get just pure fabric seats or also a mix of fabric and leatherette. Inside fabric, outside leatherette. Here with the Alcantara, some sources say that some parts are leatherette and some minor parts would be animal origin. It's really hard to find out the exact information about that, but at least most of the base and most of the seats are without some animal origin. Overall, you have good options and they look good and they're also comfortable. And what do we have here? The inside of the doors. You might also know that from a Superb. Aha! Umbrella, hidden storage space. You can not only have it in a Rolls-Royce, but also in a Skoda. And now let's get inside. This is so easy. You have this shoe tab first, of course. That was really helpful today. And yes, you can pump it up that seat manually just, but it's actually a quite easy process. So that's totally fine. You have so much room here and it's a dream for tall drivers. Here without a panoramic roof, which you can spec optionally, I have like abundance of head clearance still. So this is Michael Jordan proof basically too. Steering wheel can be adjusted in reach and also in height. That's very well done. And well, especially those sportier seats, they give you a lot of support here. The lower area, also the shoulder area is wider. Very, very comfortable, good for long time motorway run. However, although they are a little bit sportier, they don't cage you in. Sometimes sport seats are less comfortable because, you know, they look fancy, also better to keep you tight, but then reduce the space you have. But here they basically serve both purposes, so that's fine. And some small storage space here in the front. This one here basically is not dampened. Sometimes those storage boxes are, but I guess in this case we can also say, yeah, it's okay if it doesn't have the dampering. And by the way, both front and rear doors have this system that protect the door sill right here. So they automatically come out in a mechanical way, and then nothing is being damaged should you hit it maybe in the car parking next to you. We know the system also from Ford. Skoda has taken it over, and I think it's pretty useful and easy and should protect the paint on your car and also on the car next to you. This is the interior. Again, so spacious also in that respect. Soft touch, a little bit soft touch on the top of the dashboard. You see it has this design frame right there. Then again, this wood decor element, just the style here. It looks quite nice, also fits the vehicle. I would have guessed that a matte true wood interior would have been better. You do feel and see the difference, but again, it's still quite nice. But again, for 40,000 euros for the top trim, I would have also expect real wood then. Then it started with a 6.5-inch screen, also included in the Scout. Bluetooth 2-zone AC is also with the Scout package. That one then the optional 8-inch screen. Also here you can see it with Apple CarPlay connection. You can go to the home button there or then back to the Skoda menu. Soon more details for that. Also to the instrument, which look rather classic old school alike. The steering wheel has a compact good size to it. More to that when we drive the vehicle, and in low part this massive DFG shifting lever. We have seen it now quite some time at Skoda. It looks somehow fancy spaceship like, or what you think, and still a separate climate unit, so you can easily control it with this chrome circles while driving. I think this car is just simple, and it's somehow a relief to have a simple car. Also seat heating easy with the buttons here. You do not have to learn this vehicle, everything is self-explanatory. Also here with a separate button for the rear view camera, which has a great view. You can see here I got the rear door open there, therefore this part is excluded at the moment, but you can also have this round view. But also just the basic rear view camera is also available. See how it changes around then here with a very good resolution. Also have the trunk open at the moment, so it looks like this. But I can tell you it's a great resolution. You can work around with that very well. And here we go with the instruments. You see left and right, classic analog, and in the middle part you have this digital screen where you can, for example, also access the speed, the digital speed, but also the consumption. I could put this car, it was possible to 7 liters and 1 kilometers. If you push it a little bit more, this diesel, then you tend towards more 8. Actually, you have 2 glove boxes, one here, 2 buttons. At the moment there's, you know, all the paperwork is in there, and then you have more room for the lower one, which is sliding down slowly, and wow, really spacious, and it can also be cooled. Furthermore, a lot of room at the inside of the doors, also for bigger bottles. And here's some details. You have a home button, capacitive buttons, no real buttons here left anymore. For example, with the GPS to make it bigger, once click in there, see very responsive, zoom in and out like with a smartphone, and a top menu which you can also scroll around like. For example, also for the AC information if you want to have it more in detail. But again, you can also just control it manually, so that's fine. Pretty spectacular how you can choose that one here too. Radio, media, you can also connect your phone classic via Bluetooth if you want, so if you don't want to use the smartphone connecting function. And in the front here there are 2 USB supplies where you can plug in the phone. You can also slide that one to the closing part. Then the big DSG lever, off-road button, driving modes, talking about that one later. Then those, you know, those little knobs here in the cup holders. Then you can put, for example, a bottle in there which has the structure on the lower part, and then they're kept tight and you could open them with one hand then on the top cover. That's a very interesting system. You can also put it out, you know, just have, let's see, open that armrest. You can put it out completely, have a really big box then, or you can also turn that part around to have something like this as a surface, so that's both possible. And here this armrest really fixedly attached. Here we go with the rear compartment, Alcantara inside and the wood visuals, the decor elements also here on the rear door, that's really nice. Also this door protection system from an opening door is also equipped with the rear door I showed you earlier. Wow, that is so unique about this vehicle. I mean, I got the seat as I would be driving, and I still got a lot of knee room left, although we have this table here, which I'm not too fond of. If that one would be removed, I still would have even more room. However, you know, for eating here, it's quite good. However, I'm not sure what about you, but you know, I'm really strict with that. No eating in any vehicles this like. Never ever. And some, you know, especially my wife's always saying like, ah, come on, seriously? So we're having a lot of fights about that. Even drinking, I was like, just water in the vehicle. And it's like, oh, come on, don't be so strict. What about you? Tell me your experience with that. Then you got those iPad holders here, optional in the rear. Well, those are quite good if you need the entertainment, and you know, when you have maybe 2 children here in the rear and you want to keep them a little bit busy while driving, that's also better for your safety then it can be a good thing. However, I always think about, what about crash safety when it's like bam here in the rear? Especially when the iPad is not mounted here. I guess it could be even a little bit better when the iPad is mounted, or the tablet in general is mounted. Don't want to do some Apple advertisement here. You know, what do you think about that? What is really important here too in the rear, we have those lashes, and then you can fold the seat either from here directly, but you can also, there it is. Then it's fixed, so you can sit rather upright with immense headroom, or you can may put it in a sleeping position, so you can rest there too. And I've already seen that with another vehicle, not today here. There are also those head restraints attachments available. I think I showed you that on the initial review, where you can fold them up and then it keeps your head tight. So it's not like when you're sleeping, it's kind of like, you know all that happened when you do co-driving or in the rear. So really your head is kept like this, and that's a great option I would go for, especially when I'm traveling with children. Isofix also on the outside of the seats here. If you go for the 7-seater option, which is also available for the Kodiaq, then the Isofix they are missing on the 3rd row. They're still here, no problem, but I think they should be on the 3rd row as well, because otherwise the 3rd row is just, for children that do not need the full child seat anymore. But then again, they can't be too tall that they don't fit in the rear. So those 3rd row, 6th and 7th seat, in so many cars, they're just, for a very, very little certain age of kids, which exactly fit in the window between child seats and not being too tall. Not sure what's the use of that. With the Volkswagen Atlas, for example, and I think the Hyundai Santa Fe, those two had also Isofix child seat anchor points in the 3rd row, and that was of course pretty useful. But I mean, in general here, so much space in the rear, and I can tell you, here it is actually more comfortable to drive than in a big, super expensive luxury sedan, because you have this upright seating position. That's really fantastic. And cup holders here in the rear, you have actually good quality, also very good build quality here in the rear. I like that. And if you want, so there's also climate control for the rear passengers, and also USB supply and a full 230 volt supply too. So good solutions here also to charge stuff. And not to forget, a very important feature, you can slide this bench here, the rear bench, 18 centimeters forward or backward. So you're really flexible in either having more space in the rear compartment like this, the maximum, or making even more space in the loading area. And wow, this is one of the vastest loading areas I know, at least for such a size. You just press the cover here, easily done, clean solution. You see you can optionally fit some nets in here. This one here, as the 5-seater, has the maximum loading capacity 700 to 2000 liters maximum. That's done by flipping the seats, easily done with some levers. You see they are not always going down for all the way. Below here there's a replacement tire fitted. Of course, again, you can remove this net, and then we have to push down the seats here. They also click in, and if you have the proper seat for that, the different seats available, there are also front seats available, which then can be folded down, and then you can load through things up to a length of 2.80 meters. And here there's also another net where you can put small things in, but of course you could also just get rid of it. Welcome to our driving part. So a little general information here also while driving the Skoda Kodiaq. This diesel is very well insulated from the cabin, so we don't hear too much of it. As the difference to the petrol engine, I've driven at an earlier test. Again, check out that review later. The diesel doesn't accelerate that good from the low RPMs out. That's just typical petrol-diesel difference. But then again, if you have that turbo going, then the diesel is a little bit faster, about a second faster than the 1.4 liter TSI I've tested earlier. However, there are also bigger petrol engines available in general for the Skoda Kodiaq. So if you get this going, you know, after some waiting on the turbo, then it's also quite powerful. However, in this normal mode, the diesel is running rather modest. Also more about not using as much fuel. However, I mean, it's still not a small car, so we have about 8 liters on 100 kilometers as consumption. With the smaller petrol engine, we were a little bit higher, towards 10 liters. However, still I can expect the diesel to be a little bit less consuming. So that is one of the biggest flaws of this vehicle. The consumption, petrol and diesel, is too high. So whereas most of the other things were really well done, this one is the thing they still need to work on a little bit. Well, then on a motorway it's pretty calm. Also the sound insulation is good. Here with the diesel, especially if you keep it in low RPMs, again you don't hear too much, but it's a little bit louder than with the petrol engine because you have this sonorous low frequency diesel sound going on. Here in the normal mode also the steering is super soft, so when you're parking in and out, basement, garage and stuff, it's super easy to control. That is really helpful. So this makes this rather big vehicle, at least for European taste, very, very well maneuverable inside the city. However, you can also change the driving modes when you're driving very slowly, as I'm doing at the moment. We don't have an off-road track available today, but I can also go to the off-road mode. And what's happening is that I get the off-road information in the central display. Also, I have the sign that the ESC, that the electronic stability control, is drawn back. So you have a little bit more wheel spin, and also the all-wheel drive distribution is adapted, so I have more power also to the rear wheels. And there are also other driving modes. There's, for example, the Eco mode. I can put that one in to have this rolling, coasting or sailing effect. More going on. The throttle input is reduced, and when I'm rolling, it's actually easier to save fuel then. However, I will also soon test the Sport mode when the traffic has cleared just a little bit, and then I can show you how the throttle input is being optimized a little bit. As for the steering, let's just test it here already, if that makes any difference. This is Sport mode, and let's see, again, changes quite fast. This is normal mode. Maybe it changes a little bit. So in Sport mode, the steering gets a little bit stiffer. This is, by the way, also something you have very good overview here. So there's hardly any other big car, or let's say bigger SUVs, where you feel so much at home actually, because you don't have to be stressed or annoyed about anything. You look around and you see everything. The windows are quite upright, the visibility is very good. It's a small A-pillar, not too big B-pillar, and you're sitting high and actually quite forward, so the B-pillar is not blocking you too much. However, I also have the side assist there, the blind spot monitor. That is really helpful. Again, go for that. It's one of my first options I would check. So as soon as I'm driving, I think it's about over 30 kilometers an hour, there it is. Then you have this symbol in the side mirror saying someone's coming from behind. So pretty helpful system. Yeah, I mean, about the steering, this is also one of the differences if you compare it to the Volkswagen Tiguan. The Tiguan Allspace, which is a normal Tiguan in the US. and the long wheelbase version in the EU. That one has a little stiffer steering wheel and also is more connected to the road. That one here is rather set for the comfortable driving, so it's easy then in the city to steer around, but you don't have so much feel in it. It feels rather a little bit dead, arcade-like, like those old steering wheels used for gaming, which you could attach to the desks and stuff, and which didn't have like any force feedback or something like that. So that's maybe something which is also preventing us from driving too agile. However, as the vehicle is easy to control, it doesn't feel too bulky, you know. So considering the length, it feels not too big. And you know, that's always a very important aspect. We have some smaller cars which feel bigger, we have some bigger cars which feel smaller, or some bigger cars which feel even bigger. That's also happening. So you can, to some extent, drive it sporty. That is also very well shown and explained on our test ride, the initial one from the launch on Mallorca, because we had the very great winding roads there in the north. So this one here also a lot about everyday driving in the city today. And the other one, a little sportier approach, you should also check out that review. But overall, the riding is pretty satisfying because, again, it's an easy car. You don't have to learn it. You know, a good, very big difference is the Range Rover Velar, which we had recently. Of course, totally different price class. It's a little bit longer in length, but actually it has less room inside, so it's pretty interesting. And this one is half the price, or maybe even less. Even in the top spec, in the base spec, you can have 4 Kodiaq for Range Rover Velar. And I think it's always interesting to compare cars which you usually not compare, because you then see which is the actual strength of the vehicle. And I mean, even in the higher trim here, you could already say, told you that earlier, can this also be somewhat like a luxury vehicle already with all the high equipment? To some extent, yes. What would be missing for that driving wise? Well, you guys wanna go? No one wants to go the green light? Neither of those two. I don't know why. So, well, the suspension is somewhat okay. We know that one from other vehicles also, and inside Skoda and also VW and Seat. But then again, an air suspension is missing. So if you take a look at it from a price performance view, that's totally fine. However, you feel a difference if you think about, shall I get this one because I really need a room, or shall I get a super top luxury SUV? Well, the air suspension would be one crucial deciding factor, because it is more comfortable to ride with the air suspension. Then again, if you don't intend to spend so much money anyway, that's not the point then. And the suspension is really doing a good job. Sometimes, when you're running over some, maybe some not exact potholes, are actually quite okay. But when you have like horizontal facing lines in the road, then you feel the suspension, especially in the on the rear axle, which is something like a typical MQB platform floor. So that is sometimes a little bit, not that harmonic on the rear axle. That's really interesting. So then again into the sport mode. Let's press that one. And well, what's being done is that the car shifts up later, shifts down earlier again, keeps it more on the RPMs, keeps it more at the gas. And what about some short acceleration, what you would do maybe on countryside roads, for example, 50 to 70. Let's keep it in 4th gear, let's see, 3rd gear, and look, that's what already 77. So you see, especially when you're in the sport mode, a very direct reaction then from the diesel. So it's a really big difference when you're in normal or sport mode. This again counts for the automatic gearbox, here equipped with the 7-speed DSG. You might remember that the 6-speed DSG is a the 6-speed is a wet clutch system. I was confusing, right? And the 7-speed is a dry clutch system. The 7-speed is actually the newer one, but reports from customers rather indicate that the wet clutch is more durable, which is also, I would say, just basic physics, because something that has this wet fluid transition then around is more preserved than just like dry, So if you have the choice, someone also recently asked me with the Skoda Superb, for example, should I go for the 6-speed or for the 7-speed? If you have the choice between, different engines, because they still use different engines with different transmissions, always go for the 6-speed one if you want it more durable, if you buy the vehicle. If you lease the vehicle for 2 or 3 years, I guess you can also go for the 7-speed. That's no problem. And of course, shifting-wise, as an experience for the customer, the dual clutch transmission is always really great, because it makes it so seamless, the transmission. So 80 kilometers an hour, let's hit it again to 100. Plop, that's it. Wow. So good performance from the diesel. Let's the 2-liter TDI is performance-wise really a good engine. Of course, it always has those those background flaws now with all the diesel scandal. Yeah, I mean, customers who already bought that one surely have to live by that. Well, now all the new diesel is coming with SCR cleaning. That makes it surely better than before, at least. But of course, we all should be looking out also for alternative drivetrains on the midterm and the long-term run. So here on the motorway, also still the sound insulation sounds still quite good. Stability is also quite nice. See, the steering still feels somewhat artificial, but still the car itself is quite stable on the road. For the cruise control, you can set it with a separate column here. There it is. Pull towards you to activate it. Here also with the adaptive one, with a picture of a Skoda Octavia in the middle. I guess they could have also made it with a small picture of the Kodiaq, but maybe that would have been too complicated, I don't know. But those small things, maybe when you drive the car, it's nice to know. Yeah, ACC keeping the distance quite well. Now when the truck is gone, they are accelerating again, but I can always cancel that with hitting the brakes. Also, this ACC is reducing the speed until 0 kilometers an hour. That's good to know. And what is not optional as this ACC is the AEB, the autonomous emergency brake, included in this front assist. And that one is the city emergency brake. So if something goes wrong in the city, at least you have this safety net to save you from standard equipment for all Skoda Kodiaq. I think I didn't mention Karoq once, right? Because it's really hard to mess up Kodiaq and Karoq, because they both end on this Q. And sometimes, you're speaking of a Kodiaq and mean a Karoq, the smaller brother then of that one. So if that once happened to me, sorry, but I think so far I didn't mess it up. At least I hope so. By the way, the funny name is also, Skoda Kodiaq, when you just say Skodiaq. It's like the short term for the Kodiaq. So should I write maybe in the title also Skodiaq full review? And I was like, is that the new model? Yeah, let's hit that. Maybe that would be a good clickbait title. But as you know, we don't use clickbait titles on Autogefühl. Sometimes we put a question, maybe a certain question in the title, to see what meta question the review is about. But we never do like watch this, immediately click, this is super hot stuff, and maybe with a red circle. No, we don't do that, because we don't want to fool our viewers. We just want to present you in a very neutral way what we are doing, and I think so far people really appreciate that too. Now coming more towards countryside, setting the cruise control again, the ACC also I think would be my favorite option. So ACC and blind spot monitor, you should definitely check that. That really helps you while everyday driving. Seating position here again is upright and comfortable. This is also a good motorway vehicle to endure longer trips. I can definitely recommend that. And such a relaxing car to drive, actually no matter which engine you are really picking. The all-wheel drive, which is always combined with the Scout version here. I mean, usually the Scout version is not really different in driving than all of the other versions. More depends on the engines you're picking. So this is basically, the design line, as I explained to you earlier. But what we can in general say about the all-wheel drive is it has this front wheel drive plus rear wheel. So on demand, the power is transported to the rear wheels. That can be in off-road situations where you have some wheel spin in the front. But also, when this traffic light jumps to green now and I really hit it, maybe also with sport mode again. Yeah, I'm still in sport mode. Like this, when I really hit that, wow, 50, almost 60. So again, really quick. And yeah, there's a big gap to the car behind me. So when I do that, also more power is transported to the rear wheels because the car is realizing I can get more grip on the ground than when I put something to the rear. So that always changes according to what you do with the throttle, actually. So besides of the consumption and the little loose, feel-less steering, those are the two negative aspects about driving this car. Everything else is also pretty convincing. Yeah, the gap to a very high luxury vehicle would be an air suspension you could theoretically optional pick. But then again, look at the price of the vehicle. It's perfectly fine that they also do not offer it. And also know about the customers they're talking to. And so that's okay to me. Everything else, relaxing to ride, calm, sound installation good. And very, very comfortable due to the lot of room you have. One of the key factors of this car for sure, and that is also being transported, so also playing a role when you drive this vehicle for sure. And now to our conclusion for today, the Skoda Kodiaq Scout. Indeed, especially in one of the base trims, it is probably one of the best price performance SUVs on the market overall. It has so much room on the interior, has actually a quite elegant exterior and is also comfortable in driving, especially on the long-term run. Really good for families. If you go for it with the Scout version here, of course it's higher spec, more expensive. Still, if you compare it to other SUVs, especially price-wise, it's still, even in the highest trim, a very good value for money bargain, so you have to keep that in mind. What could be better? Consumption could be a little bit lower, the suspension could be a little bit more comfortable. We had the DCC here equipped today. I didn't feel too much difference into a base suspension, so I think especially with the DCC in comfort mode, it could be a little bit more comfortable. Other than that, this one here, one of the best picks there is, not only as an SUV, but overall. And I really like, when cars are offering a lot for the money, because you can build great cars for 100,000 euros, but it's harder to do one for about 40,000, which is the high spec here today, and even more if you, for example, spec it with a smaller petrol engine, which is also fine, and not pick all of the extras inside. You can also score some about 30,000 or so, and then it's really very interesting. And now looking forward to your feedback, and of course please join us next time here on Autogefühl.